When a new skull-clad vigilante begins to stalk the streets of Marvel's New York, one who's not Frank Castle, is he friend or foe? Well, let's hop into the pages of Punisher issue number 1, a brand new miniseries from David Pepose, and find out what happens next together, shall we? Alrighty then, so as we open up the comic, we're treated to a very familiar scene if you're a Punisher fan. It would seem that the Garrison family, a loving family of 4, has been murdered in their suburban home, but not just murdered, their entire house has seemingly been destroyed. At first, the detectives, Linus and Ward, think that this might very well have been some sort of gas leak gone horribly wrong, that is until they dig a little deeper and see actual explosive devices hidden inside the vents. Clearly someone wanted this family very dead very much. But why though? It's after that we end up transitioning on over to a bad guy bar owned and operated by Mr. Negative's personal henchmen, the Inner Demons. It seems these guys make a good chunk of change, opening their doors and sheltering other ne'er-do-wells, in this case a freelance international terrorist going by the codename the Sokovian. This guy's committed acts of atrocity all over the world that range from human trafficking, gun running, and oh yeah, a little bomb making. A trench coat clad individual ends up opening fire on the bar with fancy state-of-the-art looking laser pistols. Whoever this mystery man is, he clearly knows how to do some damage, has some heavy-duty hardware, and also seems to be stronger than your average bear, being able to punch one of the Inner Demon's katanas in half. It's not until this dude has completely cleared out the Inner Demons do we actually learn that this mystery man is none other than Joe Garrison, husband of that murdered family who seemingly managed to escape the same fate as his wife and 2 children, which naturally ends up making Joe Garrison the #1 suspect in his family's murder. But who exactly is Joe Garrison? Well, as we learn, he's an ex-agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. But, you know, not one of those agents who hung out with Nick Fury or the superhero set. Nah, this guy was from the darker side of S.H.I.E.L.D., doing Hydra assassinations and other such dirty work, so much to the point that he earned himself the nickname the Gravedigger. So you might be wondering, why exactly did he decide to dress up like the Punisher and run around trying to avenge his family? Well, that's probably the smartest part of this issue. He's actually not. The skull on his armor actually isn't a skull at all, it's just LED lights on brand new state-of-the-art S.H.I.E.L.D. armor. In fact, when he takes the coat off, we can see he actually has the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. logo on his arm. The barman who survived the Inner Demon massacre was just so terrified that this guy came in shooting, he just jumped to the conclusion that that must be a skull, and because the media loves doing Punisher stories, and because Frank Castle never came back from Weird World, they just all independently decided to run with calling this guy the new Punisher. And you know what? Round of applause for the creative team on this one, because that is actually a genius way to have your cake and eat it too. Joe is joined by his old S.H.I.E.L.D. handler, a woman named AAA, who's a master at creating cutting-edge weaponry, including something she calls Reaper bullets. Basically, they're special bullets that, once they're shot, act as homing beacons, meaning that Joe still has an opportunity to catch the Sokovian after he ran. Now, where exactly did the Sokovian run off to? Well, underground, quite literally, while he tries to hire a mad scientist and his army of goons to protect him by paying him off with a suitcase full of mutant growth hormone. Now, how exactly is Joe Garrison any different from Frank Castle? Well, at first glance, he doesn't seem to be that different at all. The one big factor, though, seems to be that Joe is actually serious when he told his wife that he was giving up the murderous S.H.I.E.L.D. life to settle down and be a regular, well, Joe, for the lack of a better word. Also, you get it, Garrison is another word for a military installation, kind of like a castle. Also, if you think the naming convention is a little on the nose, don't forget that Frank also used such notable aliases as Charles Fort and Johnny Tower. Now, using the Reaper bullets, Joe is able to track the Sokovian to the New York subway system, where the trail seemingly goes cold. It's here he has to stretch his own detective muscles, as well as making more use of super advanced S.H.I.E.L.D. technology to track down any sign of his prey. And once Joe realizes the Sokovian isn't alone, he decides to go all in, guns blazing, with yet another one of those deeply futuristic transforming guns, in this case a sort of railgun magnetic rifle that can not only kick like a mule, but can also magnetize all of the weapons that this mad scientist goons had pointed on him just a second ago, disarming them all. All in all, this actually seemed like a pretty easy night's work before it's ultimately revealed that this mad scientist isn't just any old mad scientist, it's Dr. Zabo, perhaps better known as Mr. Hyde. Recurring Marvel supervillain who's been able to duke it out with guys like Thor in the past, which obviously means that Joe is out of his depth right now. He's pretty good, but this is his first supervillain. Luckily for the would-be Punisher though, Mr. Hyde Clyde likes to talk a lot, and because there's a suitcase full of mutant growth hormone right now, Joe decides to fill this guy's gullet with the stuff, forcing him to OD. Well, damn, that's a pretty creative way to deal with your foe. With that done, it's just Joe and the Sokovian. Well, Joe the Sokovian and the lady hostage that he was sure to grab from the train tracks. The Sokovian tries to get under Joe's skin, implying that the murder of his family actually runs much deeper than he ever could have imagined. And the implication is that he'll never figure it out if he kills him, but hey, Joe does exactly that, making the perfect 1 in a million shot just as the train is coming. As the comic comes to a close, we also get a very John Wick-esque inspired moment wherein Joe radios back to AAA saying, well, I guess I'm back. And so that was Punisher issue number 1, everyone, and overall I enjoyed this one. I thought it was pretty good. In fact, I thought it would be good enough to have been a Frank story. I'm also just really not used to Marvel as a company actually having such self-control and self-restraint to not just instantly undo the ending of Jason Aaron's story and throw Frank right back into the fire. I mean, they're definitely going to, because the status quo is always returned to. But in the meantime, sure, why not? Let's throw an interesting, creative team on the Punisher and see what they do with it. Again, it's a little early to tell, but Joe isn't all that much different than Frank. He's a little bit more technologically apt, a little less of a loner, but then again, even Frank had microchip back in the day, and he wasn't any stranger to using big crazy cable guns. The big backbone mystery of this series seems to be what exactly Joe did to get his family murdered, or did he even do anything? Again, I don't know, but I'm definitely interested enough to take that ride and see where it all goes. Overall, I feel comfortable giving this one a 7.5 out of 10, and hey, when they inevitably do bring Frank back as the Punisher, maybe let this same creative team take a crack at it. I think they do a good job.
Hey there everyone, it's your pal Cape Joel again, and if you're seeing my face right now, that means you watched to the end of the video, and I'll always be grateful for that. Retention helps in this crazy YouTube game, and so does becoming a patron. If you head on down to the description, you can find a link to my Patreon page. Recently just redid all the tiers, a lot of cool stuff offering up there, exclusive commentaries, exclusive polls, behind the scenes concept art for Capes and Quest. That's the brand new D&D show I've started soon. Never been a better time to become a patron. You can become a patron for as little as $1 a month and help the channel grow and, help me continue to deliver content like what you just saw. So I want to thank you all, and I will see you again next time. Bye-bye.